mad. If this here rocks to y'all, then you mad. Whatever she said, then I'm mad. If this here rocks to y'all, then we mad.
Hey, how is it going, YouTube and G Team? It is Major G. I'm actually really late on this. I know it's already out and all that, but I haven't really seen anything of it. And this is actually a trailer for Shaq-Fu, the newest Shaq-Fu game, the one that came out. I want to say last year. It came out. But I'm not 100% sure because it was on Kickstarter. Like, Shaq had put this on Kickstarter for a long time, and it was just sitting there for a few years. And they put out a trailer, and I hadn't heard anything of it pretty much since then. I want to say that was like 5-6 years ago. And then I guess it came out like last year. So this is going to be the actual trailer showing what's going to be happening in this, because I think the last one I saw was the Kickstarter trailer. And so I'm finally going to know what this is about. Now, as for Shaq-Fu, I am actually in the minority for this game in that I actually loved Shaq-Fu when I was a kid. I have the original. I should have the original Shaq-Fu that I had when I was a kid somewhere at my parents' house, in a box somewhere. And I used to play that game regularly. And I was actually pretty decent in it. The only problem was that the controls were really sluggish. That was the only real problem that I had with it. I don't know if it was the Genesis controller being difficult to play as a fighting game, but I had a lot of trouble trying to pull off some of those moves. I think my favorite character was I want to say it was the old man. It was either the old man, Raja, or the cat girl. I didn't play as Shaq because Shaq was pretty difficult to play as. He had these weird moves. So for those of you that don't know, Shaq-Fu was this. So in the 90s, they made games out of games featuring a lot of athletes. Michael Jordan was probably the number one out of everybody. There are tons of games featuring Michael Jordan. Weirdly enough, none of them are actual basketball games, as far as I remember. Was Michael Jordan in a bunch of them? No. It wasn't Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was in a few of them. He wasn't in some of the bigger ones, though. Like, he wasn't in Live. I remember that. He wasn't in Live. He wasn't in NBA Jam. That might have been because it might have been during his retirement. They had a bunch of they had some Charles Barkley games. Who else was in basketball games? No, I'm not talking about Larry Bird. I know there were a couple of Larry Bird games. And those were in the 80s, I think. The mid 80s, I want to say. I remember there was Jordan. Yeah, I don't think Michael Jordan was in that many basketball games. I think he might have only been in Bulls versus Blazers, I think he might have only been in Bulls versus Blazers / Bulls versus Lakers. They're basically the same game. But I think that was the only one that Michael Jordan was actually in terms of playing basketball. There was Jordan versus Bird, but that was 1-on-1, if I remember correctly. It was like 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, and it was a street ball game. But in terms of actual basketball games, I don't really remember Michael Jordan being in any of them. But I think he was in some other games that weren't basketball. So anyway, yeah. So Shaq, at the height of Shaq's fame, Shaq ended up being in this fighting game. Like, he's the only athlete I can think of who was in a game that was not an athlete game. An athletics-based game, besides Michael Jordan. I wish I could remember what game that was that Michael Jordan was in. Um, but yeah, like Shaq came out with this weird game called Shaq-Fu, and this was from Electronic Arts, who at the time was EA. They called themselves Electronic Arts back then. I think this was around the end of the time that they were still calling themselves Electronic Arts, because EA was initially for the sports games, if I remember correctly. EA, they originally changed for just sports, and then they just, because they were Electronic Arts, which did a bunch of stuff. Then they started making some sports games, so then they made a sports division, and the sports division was called EA. And then now everything is EA. And then like, what was it? Now everything is EA, and then they further pushed the sports over into EA Sports. And then you had the goofy the arcade sports games under EA Big, like NBA Street. What was that game? The soccer version of Street. I can't think of what the name of that one was. And was that FIFA Street? I think that's what that was called. It was called FIFA Street, which didn't do that well. And was it NFL Blitz? Like stuff like that. That was EA Big. Didn't they had, I think they were SSX too. SSX, the snowboarding game. Snowboarding franchise. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, Shaq had this fighting game called Shaq-Fu, and it had like nothing to do with basketball. Like he was actually on a trip, I want to say during the Olympics or something like that, where he was in either San Francisco or China, and he walks into some old Chinese dude's shop and tries to buy something, and ends up getting transported to another universe, and he becomes the hero of this game. And you're supposed to fight against different characters throughout this new universe. And Shaq had a bunch of weird martial arts moves. Like I swear he had like one of the weirdest movesets in the game. But like Shaq chucks and all this other stuff, something like that. But anyway, yeah. So I'm curious about how they're gonna succeed this, and hopefully they have fixed the controls for this. I've been yammering about this long enough, so let's go ahead and check out this here trailer for Shaq-Fu, A Legend Reborn. I should also mention that Shaq-Fu was actually widely panned by just about everybody, which is why I started off the video saying I'm in the minority, because like everybody hated that game. Except for me. I loved Shaq-Fu. So, yeah, let's go ahead and check out this trailer here.
Rated T for teen.
Yeah. Yes, that's the old Shaq-Fu game. Wow. That kind of rhymes. Score of 94.
Diesel, baby.
Oh, so this is a platform game? I mean, what the heck? Oh my god. Hold up. I'm gonna watch this again, because this was
Rated T for teen.
that was wacky. I don't remember that bonus game. So this is not going to be a fighting game. This is going to be a platformer, I guess. Or a platformer or a brawler.
Shaq Diesel, baby.
That doesn't sound like Shaq. I don't understand what the deal is with that robot. Okay. So yeah, that looks like it's a completely different game for the most part. It's completely unrecognizable from the old one, which I think was the purpose here. Wouldn't be surprised if that was the purpose. I would, as a fan of the old Shaq-Fu game, I would probably rent this. I don't know. It's about a year or so old, so maybe I'll buy it. I'll probably buy it used, just to check it out and see what it's like, because I'm more curious about it than anything else. I actually kind of liked the format that it was a fighting game. However, even though the style of the game did seem more like a platformer, I did forget to mention that part. The style of the game, like in terms of the storyline was more like a platforming game, but it was a fighting game. And I'd say I probably would have had more fun with it if I had other people to play with. But I want to say if they kept something from the fighting element in this game, it would be more interesting to me. Such as even like a side game or something like maybe the story mode is a brawler, but they also have a fighting mode where you go up against maybe some of the bosses or something, and it's a fighting style game. That would make it more interesting in my opinion. So but I mean that's just me though. I don't know how many people were truly interested in this. I know there was a lot of surprise that someone would dare to remake this or even make a sequel to it. Reboot, sequel, whatever. Somebody dug this name out of the grave. I think it was Shaq himself who dug this title out of the grave. Because I think he was one of the people behind the Kickstarter. That would make it more interesting to me is if they kept some of the fighting element. Like if they fixed the fighting element of the game, that would make it really interesting to me. But even a platformer or brawler would be fine to me as long as they keep that fighting game element. So I know I'm repeating myself over and over here. So I don't really have much else to say about it. But let me know how you guys felt. Have you already played it? Did you have any interest in it? Because I know like fan bases are very, very weird about how they do things, and a lot of times they won't even try it. If it doesn't look exactly the way they want it, they won't even try it. They won't even buy it. Nothing. So or they'll just come in with the chip on their shoulder and then bash it because it fits everything that they thought it was going to be with that chip. So yeah, let me know what it's like. I might get it at some point. I mean, but yeah. So it didn't look great enough that I was super interested in getting it. So yeah, once again, let me know in the comments how you guys felt about it. Like, comment, subscribe, and once again, you guys be excellent to one another and party on, dudes. Look at how old Axel looks. Like they bearded him. Yeah, he looks like he's middle-aged. How does Blaze look the same though? Yeah, that must be a boss.